Hello, everyone, and welcome back to this edition of the Fluid Fan Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Angela Ruggiero, the CEO and co-founder of Sports Innovation Lab. And here on this podcast, if you're a diehard listener, thank you very much. We talk about current technologies and innovation that helps shape the sports industry. We're really focused on fan behavior, fan intelligence. If you can understand how technology is changing fan behavior, you're going to win the game. You're going to invest smarter. You're going to build experiences that your fans actually want. And so unlocking what fluid fans do, how they behave, and using data to really inform those strategies is what we do at Sports Innovation Lab. So think of us as fan behavior experts, really here to unlock the potential of sports, and hopefully you, if you're working in sports, make better, smarter decisions around the fluid fan. So my guest today is actually working to help venues and cities operate on a powerful and reliable network that can help facilitate those fluid fan behaviors that we talk about every single day here at Sports Innovation Lab. So you may not think it's super sexy, but you need the network. You need something that's going to, again, enable fans. Wes Durow, the Chief Marketing Officer at Extreme Networks, will join me today to discuss the company's continued push into the sports industry. Wes brings his extensive marketing background to Extreme and has led their latest partnerships with the NHL, MLB, and NASCAR, among others. So we'll discuss how Wi-Fi 6 and 5G networks are really becoming vital in any venue, not only to create a better experience for fans, but also to provide better safety protocols. What Extreme is doing is more than just fan experience, which we'll discuss on today's podcast. It's really about unlocking those fan insights and creating fan intelligence that, again, makes the properties and venues smarter about their fans, something we obviously get here at Sports Innovation Lab. That's we're thinking the same way. So love this conversation. Let's bring on Wes Durow, the Chief Marketing Officer at Extreme Networks, on this edition of the Fluid Fan Podcast. All right, welcome to the Fluid Fan Podcast. I'm here with, as you've heard, the Chief Marketing Officer of Extreme Networks, Wes Durow. Wes, great. Thanks for being on today. Appreciate your time.
Hey, it's great to be here, and thank you so much, Angela. It's a real privilege.
Yeah, it's so great to have you on the show. We've been working together on our leadership boards. I know my team's gotten to know you for some time now. We've talked about Extreme quite a bit in some of our objective analysis. So you guys are crushing it. I'll start there. But before we get into Extreme, I was excited to chat with you. I want to make sure our listeners know a bit about your background, Wes. You've worked in the network space for quite some time. Quickly list CMO of Mattel Networks and the VP of Global Marketing at Sonus Networks before obviously coming into your role today at Extreme. You are a sports positional power player in your brief tenure at Extreme and already led a bunch of deals, which we'll get into later with MLB, NASCAR, NHL, others. You're definitely an expert in the space, one of the leading marketing executives in our industry. And we were just briefly catching up. Technology wasn't always the thing you were, when you graduated, you said it wasn't quite the area you thought you'd go into, but you're a believer now, as am I. So can you walk us through just your prior roles, how you got into the role you are in today, and again, kind of the why behind where you are today? That's always, to me, the most curious part of, like, how did you end up here, and what fuels your fire at the end of the day?
No, that's a great question. I mean, at this point in my career, you inevitably look back on your journey and how you got here. And I was a kid who was, my dad was a welder and my mom was a secretary. I was just lucky to go to college. And I was never going to be some sort of rocket scientist. I was never going to teach English, but I was pretty good at most things. And I was really good at listening and trying to understand what people want. And that's really what led me into marketing. And I went to graduate school for that. And when I left Northwestern a long time ago, I had a chance to work on American Airlines, doing marketing for them early in my career. The evolution of them to become one of the top airlines. I thought, man, if you can market an airline, you can market anything. I moved on to work on Bank of America when it was NCNB, rebranded to Nations Bank, bought Bank of America. Great opportunity, and those I really started doing more sports marketing on a parallel path. My wife had worked when she finished graduate school for the Southwest Conference before it became the Big 12. She was a high school coach, athletic director. So I always had this kind of crossover interest. And then the move to tech was one that I didn't really expect, but you know, the unique thing about that, you know, versus working on a bar of soap where I'd spent a year working on what is the front of that, you know, what do we do for our campaign, or a bar of picante sauce, or a jar of picante sauce. Tech is always changing, and that's great. That's like what's inspired me to come here. I'm scared to death of it half the time, but it's what's inspired me to come here. I started my career at Nortel, went on to run marketing globally for Avaya. As you said, I went to what's now Ribbon today, running marketing. At Mitel, we had the great chance to do MLB. And then here at Extreme has had this incredible practice around sports and entertainment for 8 years. And so when I joined just over 18 months ago, it was a great chance for me to snap into that infrastructure and that team and really start to blow it out.
Right. I'm with you. I'm a little scared of tech sometimes, as I know some of our listeners are. That's why they tune in to this pod, to learn about the Fluid Fan and the technology driving those fan experiences that we want. So fascinating background, Wes. Before we dive into what you're doing now, like maybe you can, as an industry expert that in role as CMO, has to explain what the hell connectivity is and why it's so important. Could you just set the stage and give us a high level look at, you know, connectivity, wireless infrastructure market? You know, we hear a lot of buzzwords and 5G versus Wi-Fi 6 versus DOS. I want to just make sure our listeners understand what we're about to talk about in terms of why this investment is so important, and really it does lay the groundwork for a lot of the activations and experiences that we talk about on this podcast every day. So dumb it down for me and for anyone that doesn't really get this space. What do you do? What's the, you know, kind of the nuts and bolts of this space?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and I'll start kind of pre-pandemic, because pre-pandemic everybody talked about digital transformation, and what's happened over the last really 18 months, 2 years, has accelerated everything across every sector. You know, you won't go to a doctor now without having some probably split between what you do in person and telehealth, and if you get the latest Apple Watch or whatever your device of choice is, your Oura Ring. There's always going to be this blend between what you do in person and you know what you do virtually. We see it in what we do from certainly our children's educations. Everything has changed, and that all is accelerated. And what that did, what it really revealed, was the role of the network. This is not like just putting batteries in the flashlight and it doesn't matter what happens. How people connect, you know, what devices are using, what applications are using, the quality of that connection, the insights from that connection, especially as you think about things like occupancy management or contact tracing, all are foundational. And the role of wireless and wireline starts to blur. Everybody expects wireless capability, the flexibility of that, but they want a wireline performance. And that's, so a lot of this discussion, is it 5G or Wi-Fi 6 or DOS? It's a blended environment. And really what's come out of that is the evolution of how the cloud ties all of this together and the insights from that. So I'll tell you like a crazy fact. I mean, last year when the guy ran across the Super Bowl during the game, advertising a porn site, we could tell you exactly what applications people are watching during the Super Bowl at that time, including how many people were on a porn site. We can't tell you who, but we can tell you that information. And frankly, if it's porn or Facebook or what have you, you know, how do you turn that into a monetized opportunity? And we help our clients with that every single day. Insights provide real value, and I can even talk about what that means at the team level and how that pays off. But it's that's the big differentiator. The network sets organizations apart based on the insights they garner from it and how fast they can leverage those insights into some performance on the field, monetization opportunity off the field.
And you mentioned before COVID was the accelerator. We've done a lot of analysis in this space around the smart venue for many, many years. And, 2 years ago, I think we were pushing the industry to like invest in companies like Extreme. Today, as you mentioned, everyone is undergoing a digital transformation, needs not just the insights, but also that, pipe, work ground, laid to activate on the things they know, including COVID protocols. So again, I just want to reemphasize, you believe COVID was the ultimate kind of accelerator for this industry, for the, for all experiences that we're talking about.
1,000%. I mean, if you look just at the last 18 months, you can't go into a venue with a ticket anymore. You can't really even use cash at any concession stand anymore. You don't, everything has changed. I mean, think of the Super Bowl. Last year's Super Bowl was the first one, completely touchless transactions, completely ticketless. Everything was, and that was, was ahead of schedule from what Michelle and Aaron and that whole team had planned. That was well ahead of schedule. And so everything is accelerated. You see that playing out across every single league. And then you see that same underpinning as we look at enhanced fan experiences, as well as gambling, that core infrastructure and what's on it. And actually the interesting piece is as fans come back to the stadium, they've got more devices connected to the network than ever before. So the actual requirements of the network, just not only in terms of throughput, but intelligence, have changed dramatically.
Yeah. I think it's one of the most positive things to have occurred in our industry, like full stop, was the pandemic. It just accelerated the things that we all, as an industry, we talk about needing to do. And what you're expressing is the behaviors have changed. Like literally, you won't go into the venue with a ticket now. You expect to pay cashless. You expect to be able to, some of the behaviors we talk about, again, the share experience. You expect to be able to go into a venue, take a picture and share it on Instagram. You expect to be able to go into a venue, bet on a game, and like not be, not have to worry about latency and that you can't get in at the right time. Or you expect to be able to go into a venue and own or buy merchandise. So you feel connected to those fans, those athletes, and, and do it without touching cash or sitting in a line. Again, these behaviors is really, I think, at the core I'm trying to get at. Fans expect that. And again, Extreme is one of the companies really, I think, pushing this opportunity, this revenue opportunity for the industry. So can you talk a little bit about then, with that kind of behavioral lens in mind, the importance of having this stable, connected infrastructure and how vital it is in today's climate for the fans that you interact with?
Yeah, the infrastructure is table stakes. That's a given. I mean, it has to work, has to be at a performance level. Like I said, more devices connected than ever. When you think about what happens, whether it's a ballpark, an arena, a large stadium venue, and even that, especially as you consider the surround sound in these areas that lead up to many of these venues, we look at it rather uniquely. We see it as a microcosm of a hotel environment. And do I have the right concierge staff to accommodate people? It's a microcosm. Many places they've got their own healthcare requirements, not only for the fans and guests, but for the players. So it needs to have those real-time IoT capabilities. It's certainly a retail environment, and any venue looks at revenue per square foot from that perspective. It's a field services, field operations venue. How do I make sure I've got the right person, the right place, right time? So all of that requires intelligence, and that intelligence can be built off, hey, that Wi-Fi beacon and access point. How close is somebody? Do I have an occupancy management issue where I need to send more of a cleaning crew to one location? Do I need to send a concierge staff there? Maybe I need to send a security staff. I may have people queuing up, or I could even have an IoT sensor that says, hey, we're out of kegs of beer. We need to roll another keg of beer there that maps into a workflow process for the concessions. All of this is really intimately knitted together. And then, as you said, not only being able to, hey, you want to be able to get your IG photo out fast, but if you're at a game and you want to be able to bet on that penalty shot, you want to be able to bet on that corner kick, you don't want to have to know that you're fighting traffic against somebody's Facebook post or Instagram post. You want that to be number one in the prioritization level. And that's the metadata level type work that we can do with really simplified insights. And the last piece I'll leave you with is everybody's trying to figure out how to get more fans, how to monetize that experience. And again, we don't look at, hey, what was Angela looking at a given game, but at a metadata level, we're helping our customers see. We had one. They realized that people were showing up at soccer games on using Bumble, and it created a chance for them to go create a Bumble zone and create Bumble as a sponsor for that zone. We have another baseball team. They realized that people were using Wayfair. I had no idea what Wayfair was until my wife remodeled our house, and I feel like we took out another mortgage to Wayfair in the process. But they do Wayfair nights, and they do promotions of Wayfair to get wives and girlfriends to show up as they try to extend out. So these insights not only can drive the top line, improve operating efficiency, reduce risk by making sure the right people at the right time, but ultimately will deliver a better fan experience. And it starts with the underlying infrastructure.
You're like speaking my language, Wes. It's yes, I like how you kind of said table stakes is the infrastructure so that you can post your photos and do the things you want. But the meta more valuable capability here is the insights, which is, that's what we do every day. But it's the insights of your fan in the venue, how they're moving, what they're buying, what are they looking at, what are they watching, et cetera, that is really, you think, the gold here within today's climate.
Yeah, and it's funny because, what happened, you're in Boston, what happens at Fenway on opening day when it may have flurries could be vastly different than what happens in late September when they're playing the Yankees and they're fighting for that last playoff spot, even the fan experience and what takes place there versus what happens when Billy Joel comes through town or Taylor Swift comes through town, and that same staff the operating staff has to be repositioned a different way to care for guests, or traffic flows are different. So you want to make sure that network performance is not only, like I said, exceptional, but the insights, you want to make sure you can flex from it to make sure you're always optimized for the scenario of the day.
Yeah, what I love too, I can relate. Maybe we partner down the line, Wes. But the idea it isn't just a survey or like, oh, I like Wayfair, or oh, I like to do this thing, and you may or may not but it's actually behavioral data. It's like real time, actionable at a meta level that allows you to make more strategic decisions around, technology investments or partnerships or activations that actually sounds like align to the fans uniquely in your venue versus some other venue across the board. Cool. Tell me a little bit about, you mentioned hotels, or, we at Sports Innovation Lab, again, have talked a lot about these smart venues, that they're a microcosm of smart cities, that you can use the insights from these concentrated environments to power. And a big reason a lot of technology companies like to work in partner with sports properties is because you can abstract it to smart venue. Tell us a little bit about that relationship and what Extreme is doing, leveraging its relationships with the sports properties and vice versa with kind of these broader, smart venue plays.
Yeah, sports venues are not for the faint of heart. I mean, and it's, you see it when something bad happens. I'm knocking on wood as I say it. It shows up in the media. People know what's happened, and so
you got to be on your game.
Yeah, we have a saying, we use it all the time. Hashtag every day is game day, and we believe that why people choose us. It's when the lights come on brightest. If you're in that environment, you're going to choose us. And take hospitality, for example. We're all dealing with, even before the pandemic, labor challenges were real. They're even more real in this environment than ever before. So again, as you think about how do I make sure I have the right people in the right place at the right time with the right information, there's part of that. There's all sorts of workflow softwares by industry that you can run on. But how do you start tying together IoT devices, other sensors, other occupancy management tools together with that? And again, what happens when it rains outside or snows versus what happens in April versus October? All that matters in a hospitality venue, just like it matters, at any sort of arena or other public venue. Mm-hmm. And for us, it's about taking that information and, okay, think about safety management. If you see a bunch of people aggregating a certain area, you may turn on the camera, you may redirect the camera to your security crew. Do I need to send somebody there to a given location? You may realize that if somebody comes through, especially as we're doing more facial recognition, oh, Angela's come through. She's a big she's been a long time 20-year ticket holder. We haven't seen her in a while. We're going to make sure she gets to her seat comfortably and maybe give her some bobblehead or special gift to recognize her. So there's things like that you can do now with the information that is really no dissimilar than what you do for our hospitality clients. And I think I would differ, and a lot of those are gaming clients as well. So the network performance is a given. So those high risk, high leverage situations, we embrace those and then try to make sure we have the ability to personalize on top of it.
Again, I love what you guys are up to. And I'm not biased, I'm objective. Extreme Networks was a game changer, which is our, we built these Gartner Magic Quadrant type of analysis on the market where we looked, we call it our power play index. You guys were the top ranked in our, again, data-driven analysis of the behavior connect. So again, that's what we're talking about here today, a technology or a company that supports fans connecting digitally with one another. And so just quickly, we scored technology alignment. So those that are investing in the technologies we mentioned before, Wi-Fi, 5G, DOS, cellular networks, et cetera. But also having a high score in market validation, which is, again, through the different partnerships. We talked about the NHL. We've talked, want to get into the MLB and some of the ones you've been doing. But the Super Bowl was one that when we were doing this analysis, you guys did a tremendous job around. You were able to really, I think, understand those fans, understand their the uniqueness of those fans during the Super Bowl, and then help those fans do more. You mentioned you can't mess up. If you mess up during the Super Bowl, all eyes are on you. All eyes, would be, but you guys delivered a fantastic experience. So tell me a little bit about your partnership then with the NFL and how you were able to power that fan experience and the intensity of that moment. And as an extension, what is Extreme going to be doing with the NFL moving forward?
Yeah, and this goes really back to our COO, who's really champions this, Norman Rice, and John Brahms, who runs that practice. But they've built that up from the Patriots into the NFL, where we serve almost every single team in some way, shape, or form, and certainly Super Bowls for years. And as you said, it has to work. That team that works on it starts playing with Aaron, the team of the NFL, almost as soon as the last Super Bowl is done. And for us, it is about really understanding the fans, the insights, how they're using the network, what's required of the network. We see data usage going through the roof. And again, that's transferable, and it's helped us open up the other opportunities even since the reports come out. You talk about baseball as a sport that is built on analytics, and how do you not only for what's taking place, and the baseball's a little unique because Truman and the team there have a consortium that oversee 20 of the 30 ballparks from a Wi-Fi perspective. So we just did Fenway. What's pretty unique is we've got venues like Lambeau Field, we've got Fenway, we've got Wrigley, we've got the Coliseum in LA, we just did Berlin Olympic Stadium. So what I love most is being able to tell the stories of old venues, like the ones that are treasures to us across the globe, and wiring those up and making those as current as possible. But all of them want one thing, which is insights of how they're, like I said, what can they do to better drive the top line? What can they do to improve operating efficiency in this environment? What can they do to make the experience safer? You talked about occupancy management, contact tracing, those capabilities. And then really, ultimately, what does that mean for the guest experience, the fan experience? And that's the common thread. NASCAR, same thing. They're trying to do the same thing. They're building out the new connected car for the future of NASCAR. In fact, the craziest thing about NASCAR is when things went dark during COVID, they moved all their drivers online and had an e-racing league. And Jeff Gordon's replacement came out of that league. So this tie between the two is really pretty remarkable. NHL, the same thing. Everybody wants analytics and insights. That's what you see pull us forward. And I think we'll continue to pull anybody involved in this topic forward, is how do we take the insights and deliver a better experience? And that really started for us with the NFL.
Yeah. And you mentioned some of the recent partnerships, NASCAR, NHL, and are going to be touching on some EPL deals in the near future. Tell me about, again, any highlights from some recent partnerships that you've been able to strike in the space?
Yeah, I think again, it all comes back to everybody wants better insights.
Hmm.
These are multi-use venues, or else they're like NASCAR. Wow, I mean that is a lot of people show up in one location. It has to work. It has to be effective. These are multi-year partnerships, the journeys that we're walking with them. It's interesting as you go across overseas to Europe. The advent of enhanced connectivity. Again, a lot of it's driven by gambling, and as I mentioned earlier, you want to be able to know if somebody's taking that penalty kick, if somebody's doing the corner kick, something unique. If can I gamble on that? And you want to make sure it's real time. All those are paying off though in terms of providing that underlying foundation for how do I make sure my right operating staff are in the right location, the right time. So that's the common thread, whether it's NASCAR, NHL, MLB, NFL, anything we do at the D1 level and college sports, and certainly Berlin Olympic Stadium, what we're doing internationally, that's the common thread, better
Yeah.
insights.
So
I'll give you one
insights.
other,
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll give you one other quick fact. I mean, we also wire up all 30 of the stadiums in MLB for during the games, and you see the players looking at the data, not so not just the fans, but how the players use high performance connectivity and capability. If you look at who won during the playoffs, and in 70+% of the instances, the person who consumed the most data was the team that consumed the most data was the team that won. Now I can't tell you who that is beforehand or who to bet on or any of that stuff, but it pays off on the field as much
Yeah.
as it does in the
Yeah.
stands.
Yeah.
Better insights equal better performance. It gives you a winning advantage.
Yeah, so let's tackle both those. The first is the betting. We did some analysis of the market. I think pre-pandemic, there were 24 stadiums that had the 5G connectivity. We're over 40, since the pandemic broke almost 2 years ago. People are layering this in. They're investing in you. They're striking partnerships. How much of that, we mentioned COVID, but betting, I just want to underscore betting. This is like top line opportunity. Everyone is frothing at the bit. Betting companies are absolutely exploding and consolidating and growing. And by the way, they need the venue. So how much of this acceleration is also just that one new revenue stream here in the US?
Yeah, it's inevitable. It's a combination of both. I mean, we are seeing it not just the US, internationally, where you've got venues that didn't even have bowl type Wi-Fi access.
But they've had
that's,
betting for years. They just have
they
been
did.
leaving money on the table.
Yeah, and just the ability to do real-time betting, where now everybody wants to be able to bet, is he going to make the game-winning free throw? Is she going to make the game-winning, penalty kick?
So
That
prop
sort of thing.
bets, that's the new wave. Yep.
Exactly. Being able to do that in real time is, and that's how you keep the young fans engaged, right? It's all about in the moment engagement, and
Totally.
that's the big differentiator here.
Yeah. Yeah. We I think we saw, we found a third of bettors are trying to make money. A quarter are betting just to add some excitement to the game, and a fifth bet to compete with family and friends. Like there's different reasons why people bet, but they need to be able to bet. So I mean, we're obviously paying close attention. So we've tackled the insights and kind of the operational piece. We've tackled the fan experience in the venue and some of the needs why we need this kind of investment. You touched on your MLB relationship. I'd love for you to talk a little bit about how the partnership with the MLB, and we've seen this Moneyball effect, how the investment and the partnership is actually making its way into the video room, enabling players and coaches to have instant replays and really able to analyze their previous at bats. And as a former athlete, I wish I had something like this. I wish I could have said, man, I missed that shot, or what was that player doing, and give me some real time analysis versus the wait 2 days when we're sitting in a room together looking at our VHS replay. I'm not that old, but you know what I mean? Like, wow, you can do it in real time, and tell me about that experience with the MLB and the feedback you've received thus far from the players and coaches.
Yeah, I mean, it's been pretty amazing, and in many ways, they were the ones that pioneered a lot of this work. With the original kind of StatCast stuff they did with AWS, now with Google, and you see it now when you sit down and go to a game. Many people ask, well, what is that statistic? It's about the launch angle, or the ball bat speed off the bat. It's not just how fast is the pitcher throwing it. It's how many RPMs, what's the spin rate? Do they have a really high spin rate? Do they have a low spin rate? Does the ball break more vertically versus horizontally? All these things you see just as a standard fan on the boards of many of these stadiums. And that experience is now being ported to the minor leagues and leading to even more competitive, a better, broader experience. So that's foundational. The next wave of that then is building a network that can do automated balls and strikes. We've talked about that. Tennis is one of the sports that really led in that area with the Hawkeye system way back when. And you're talking fractions of an inch. I mean, it's almost perfect. And so these things have fundamentally changed every dimension of it, not only in terms of the way that players prepare, but you see it throughout the World Series, how managers coach. You yank a guy out who's having a perfect game because you're betting the odds on what's taking place, and you see like, hey, he's not quite as sharp. Maybe his spin rate's breaking down. Maybe the break on the ball's not quite there. So you see that come through. And then on our side, again, we see it even just within the stadium with the operating efficiency of making sure you've got the right people, the right place during the game. So it really is about that holistic experience, and to pull younger fans in that are digital natives. It's just that this is kind of the world they live in and what they expect. They have a different expectation.
Totally. Their behaviors are different than your grandmas and grandpas. They if you don't meet them where they are. Yeah. And the athletes too. Again, this would have been an amazing. Yeah, go ahead.
My son is a college baseball player. It's all about, he does all those breakdowns and everything I just described. What's his spin rate? What's his vertical break? How does he have enough differentiation between pitches? When I wasn't very good. I ruined the gene pool, as I like to say, but my wife was the athlete, but I would just roll back and chuck it. These kids today, it's just a completely different, and same is true in tennis or hockey or any other sport.
Yeah, that's our quantified. I mean, one of the reasons when we started this company, I was obsessed with it. I talk about this all the time. Just like better understand your body, you can perform better. And that's essentially what you're describing is today's athlete, not just today's fan, but today's athlete expects it and they want it, and they know it'll make their, if they can gamify their careers in some ways, really understand what's going on and tweak around the edges. You can make some big shifts over the course of a 10, 20-year career. So it's great. You're able to essentially power that experience for the athlete, which again, can make a big difference too. And we talk a lot to storytelling, like some fans, they want the story, they want the hot dog, they want to sit back, they want to be with others. They want that community, community is a big reason why we buy sports. Others, they want the stats, they want the highlights, they want they want to be able to bet, they want to be able to get more analytical, I guess. And again, what I love is that you can power all those different experiences for different fans, these fluid fans, as we call them. But you need, it's kind of I don't know, Wes, I get excited because on face, most people might listen to this and go like, okay, this isn't, the next shiny new object, the NFT or the VR headset, things that we get asked about all the time. But this is the plumbing. This is the thing you need to understand your fan, and it doesn't get, in my opinion, enough visibility, attention, conversation. And as I mentioned, COVID definitely opened up people's eyes to digital transformation and the need for insights. And I love it. So I love having this conversation with you, but I don't know if you have any high level kind of like, what should this industry, why should they, be paying attention to this on paper, maybe not sexy topic, but absolutely, if you don't understand it, if you're not investing in it, you're going to leave money on the table. What's your big takeaway?
Hey, listen, if you drive a nice car and you're putting just crappy gas in it, you're going to get crappy performance. And you may not think about the gas, but why should you spend more? I mean, it is really about performance. And you go back to it, and I've had the chance to get to know Michael Johnson. He's got a training facility down the road and do different things with him over the years. And he'll talk, the NFL, prospects all go there to train. And he'll talk about 1/100th of a second can be the difference between making the team or not making the team, between the stand and not making the stand. and it's pretty remarkable. And so when I see them train and what they do, and so it's really about making sure you have the foundation in place to make this technology and the insights from the technology available not only to the fans, to the operating staff, the athletes, the coaches. Like that has you don't want to start with a crappy foundation and go build a luxury house. It makes no sense. Don't go cheap on the windows. I mean, that's really what this kind of the analogy comes down to. And I don't know how to put it any other way than that, Angela.
Yeah, no, I love having you on, Wes. You guys were a game changer on our Power Play Index. You've been doing great things to lay that plumbing, that build the right infrastructure, the right foundation for a lot of the experiences that we talk about all the time on the Fluid Fan podcast. So keep up the great work. You certainly are doing a great job. I've enjoyed working with you on our leadership board. What's next for Extreme or broader the connectivity market? Are we going to see a 6G? What's around the horizon?
Well, we will see a 6G, and we actually do a lot of work in 5G today with many of the operators and the providers. And I think people have a lot of discussion about there's so much 5G advertising out there. Oh, I can get many people have used 5G hotspots at home. I think the evolution of people's mobility strategies is always going to be a blended environment. This 6E has come out, which is not just faster, but the number of devices you could put on it at one time is a big deal. And I think you talk to a lot of folks, even in any wireless environment, you're trying to get it back to a wireline. Everybody wants wireline performance in terms of reliability and capability and insights, but they want the flexibility of wireless. So you'll see that over the near term. But I think, again, it's really about unlocking. I mean, the companies that start to really unlock the simplicity, single pane of glass, the insights to how the network's being used, how the applications are running off of it, where they're running, who's running it off of it, the metadata level. You'll see a lot of emphasis on us building out not only tools from that, but open APIs to snap into workflow applications, whether it's concessions down applications, ServiceNow type applications of where people go in the right within a venue. And then I think the next big piece is really outside the venue. So how do we help? We're working with a lot of our clients to, as they go to more facial recognition software where you're coming into a venue without even a ticket, how to blend those experiences as what happens outside the arena is every bit as important as inside the arena, trying to get every dollar, pound, euro out of our pocket. Those are the next big things I see coming forward.
I love it. So I don't need a wallet. I just need a face and a thumbprint and
exactly.
You're gonna know everything about me, and I can be naked for all on the future.
Come on.
Question before we get into 4 with 4, where I want to get your perspective on kind of innovation in our space. I've talked a little bit about the edge computing, kind of how all this fits in. It's something we haven't spent a lot of time on this podcast, but how does the edge fit into all this? And I don't know your perspective on, for the foreseeable future, having that integrated into venues.
Yeah, I mean, it's foundational. When you think we have a concept, not a concept, a technology vision we talk about is the infinite enterprise, and you are at the edge of your network. Your phone is your computer is your phone these days. I mean, it all is the edge of the network. How you use it, the security, the capability of that is a huge differentiator. So when you think about it in a facility, yes, it's a little easier to control within the facility, but again, start talking about outside the facility, that whole ecosystem that surrounds it. We try to look at it holistically from that perspective, and it's core to our technology vision, core to how we enable this seamless experience between what's virtual, what's in person. You're spot on in terms of that recognition.
All right, Wes Giroux, Chief Marketing Officer of Extreme Networks. Thank you for your perspective. Thanks for sharing what Extreme does, and keep doing what you're doing. I don't want to let you go though before I tap your brain on innovation. Just want to get your thoughts on what does it mean to you? What is the word? When you hear innovation, no right or wrong answer, but just how do you think about innovation from your seat?
We have a a core belief inside Extreme. It's about challenging complexity. And so when I think about innovation, innovation to me should always be intuitive. It starts with being intuitive. It should be attainable. It shouldn't be out of the realm of what I can afford. So easy to use, simple to manage, affordable to deploy. Those to me, if it's those are the characteristics of something that's innovative to me, I would put it in that framework.
Love it. Love it. Is there someone in the industry that you look up to, listen to, perk up? We go to a lot of industry events. Sometimes we're networking and not listening, but when someone speaks, who are you like, I'm going to sit down and listen to this person?
Well, there's a gentleman called Michael Gale, and he started, I think he went to Oxford or some super smart school in Europe. And then he was, I want to say, Michael Dell's chief of staff way back when. And somehow he's gotten into sports and does a lot with the different leagues. And he wrote a book called The Digital Helix a couple years ago. He's got a column in Forbes. And what I love about Michael is he's not really a sports person by heart, although he does a lot with a lot of different teams, a lot of different places. But he has this exceptional ability to, tie the Gossamer thread from, okay, how do we take an operating experience to what happens with the coaches and the players to what happens to the fan, and really, create that tie between each. And so every time he does a new podcast or he does something in Forbes, he's just a brilliant guy to listen to, because he stretches you out of, he stretches your viewpoint in terms of just different ways to look at things. With a team, the one guy who I'm always amazed with is Andrew McIntyre with the Tampa Bay Lightning. He was the CIO of the Cubs when they were there, which sounds great, but he went to Tampa, he's won a couple Stanley Cups down there, and he's always been active in different organizations, always has a little different view, always leaning forward. There's a lot of great folks, but he's done it with a lot and he's done it with a little. I always admire people that can survive in both worlds.
Yeah. Thanks for helping hockey out. We need those warm weather states to win cups. Keep our sport going.
There you go.
Good to know. We'll make sure to plug them in and follow them so we can also talk about the good work they're both doing. What about a company, innovative company in the sports tech space that, you can't say Extreme because we've already talked about how great you guys are. Is there anyone else in the space? Yeah.
Yeah, Kareem has moved on to MLB, but the work that Venuetize has done is pretty unique. And again, you start thinking about going into the experience, what's a holistic experience. That as a startup, I think they're doing a lot of really unique things. It'll be interesting to see how some of the heavyweights like Fanatics, where they want to be this all-in-one, can that really come together? I don't know, but if I had to look at somebody I've admired kind of from the sidelines, I would say Venuetize.
Yeah, no, they've been great. We've been working with them for a few years, and to your point, that all-in-one experience and knowing everything we talked about today, which is how do you give fans an easy experience and tie it all together. Love what they're up to. So good shout out there. And yeah, Fanatics is Fanatics. They have so much money now, they can do anything.
Yeah.
That e-commerce platform pivot to global empire. I'm super curious how they're gonna deploy that cash. Is there any property that you work? We've already mentioned a few that you already work with, but is there one that stands out that you think are really pushing the industry forward?
I think, we don't necessarily work with them, but I think one that is going to push us all forward. And again, I don't even fly a drone, but the Drone Racing League, because, they'll show up and they'll do a mix of what they do online, and then they'll show up to an empty building. They'll show up to a public venue and, put on these drone races. And so it's the ultimate in terms of connectivity of the environment, connecting with fans in a completely different way. I think in many ways, we need to look at some alternate venues, and we're so tied into what happens, like you said, in hockey or basketball or soccer or what have you. But this combination of esports and live events, I think they may be onto something there. So that's one I'm kind of watching closely, just operationally, to see how they pull it all together between technology, fan experience.
Yeah. Nick Korbashevsky's, we've had him on before. He's visionary for sure, bringing those different different experiences all under one umbrella. And, they've done some interesting things too in the sponsorship space recently. So we'll keep you guys posted there. Great answers, great insights, Wes. Thanks for the time today. Any parting thoughts on any topic that you want to share before we turn it over?
No, the only thing I would say is parting topic is, the race is won in the turns. You look at any category, any technology transition, and this is a turn in the marketplace, the turn where better insights is going to be better performance, whether it's in a venue, on the field. We all know that. So lean into that. The cloud is your friend. You shouldn't have to settle for technical debt. There's a path forward that if somebody's not getting, if it's a complete rip and replace approach, go talk to somebody else. But my end of the day comment is this is a fundamental turn, not just for sports and sports technology, for the marketplace as a whole. The race is one of the turns. Lean in and gain ground. That's my parting bit of.
I love it. Fan insights. We do that too. We love it. That's name of the game. You gotta know your fan to build a better engine, as you mentioned. And I think you mentioned Michael Johnson, who it's like, look for those little inches everywhere. Don't settle. That's what I'm hearing from you, Wes. We gotta keep pushing. So,
100%.
Yeah, thanks again for being a part of the show and our being on our leadership board, and just keep good luck with further partnerships and what you guys do every single day.
Hey, it's been a privilege. Thank you so much.
So thanks again, Wes Westerow, the CMO of Extreme Networks, for joining me on the show today, sharing your insights on connectivity, infrastructure, just how Extreme is really focusing on the fan experience and how their network and how all networks can really facilitate the behaviors that we advocate for here at Sports Innovation Lab, whether it's betting, sharing, buying. You need that core infrastructure to enable fans and that infrastructure to understand your fan. That's the name of the game. The future of sports is data. So I love the conversations we had with Wes today around that. So keep crushing it. Want to close by thanking my producer, Jack Barlow, my entire team. I've got a great team. We're hiring. We've got a few positions open here at Sports Innovation Lab. If you're interested, hit us up at info@sportsilab.com. The team is growing. We're really trying to do more to build out our data engine, to service our clients, to help the industry better understand the fluid fan. So if you're interested in what you've heard and you want to learn more about opportunities at Sports Innovation Lab, hit us up. I also want to close by just thanking you, my listener, for being a part of this. I love when I meet someone at a conference or on a call or on a tweet that just says, hey, what you guys are doing is really cool. I learned a little bit more. I'm a better version of myself because of the Fluid Fan podcast. I'm like, all right, that's cool. That's what we're doing this for. So thanks for subscribing, listening, liking, etc., etc. I'm Angela Ruggiero. Thanks again for your time. I'll see you next time on the Fluid Fan podcast.